Hey everybody, welcome to What's for Lunch. I'm Frankie Massicott. I'm a parenting support worker at KSCS and I'm here today at the Family and Wellness Center with my lovely co-host.
Welcome to What's for Lunch. I'm Chantal Haddad, nutritionist at Cattery Hospital here in town. And today I'll be happy to share with you my favorite chili recipe.
Awesome. I'm curious to see why it's your favorite. So like everybody who knows the program, usually this is where I'll unfold the kits that participants receive for free. But today we're doing something that's different. We have no kits. So I'm just going to mention a little bit of the ingredients that Chantal's going to be using today. So I see here we have a can of diced tomatoes. We have some red kidney beans, some black kidney beans, and some corn, and I see a little bit of tomato paste and some little spices and herbs that she's using. I also noticed there's an onion and a garlic. And lastly, I always forget the meat, but we have some ground beef here.
Alrighty, so shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, so today we're using ground beef. With chili, you can use whatever you want. Ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken, no meat at all. You could just use beans. The possibilities are endless. So this is just an example. So my first step, I'm going to brown, and before I start, I'm preparing half a recipe. So I have the other half already done so that when we finish, we could see it already prepared. Okay. All right, so this is half a recipe. So here we go.
So it's about to smell lovely in here. We're gonna get started.
So just to show you, so I'm using a pan. Normally, if you're doing the full recipe, you're gonna use like a bigger pot. I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil in there, and I'm gonna put that on the stove. I'm gonna throw in there my chopped onion and garlic and my meat. Okay, so let's get started with that.
Okay. So just to let everybody know as well, usually Chantal has everything prepped so her measurements are accurate, which just makes it easier when we're creating the recipe for you viewers to see. I'm trying to think, Chantal, we mentioned, right, healthy versions of the recipe, so not to maybe use the meat or just a vegan version of it if they wanted.
Yeah.
I'm curious also what viewers use. Do you make chili? Do you love chili? I'm thinking, who doesn't love chili? I could tell you guys though, I made it for the first time last year. On December 1st, we actually did a What's for Lunch chili contest, and we were lucky enough to have Lisa Westaway from Cattery Hospital, as well as Derek Montour, who's the ED of KSCS, come on as our judges, and we invited community members to share some of their recipes, and we got 4. So we had, I think it was your version, right, Chantal, that you had made? It was a vegan version?
Yes, that's the one we showed.
Okay,
yeah, with sweet, maybe squash?
Yeah, I think we had it with squash.
Yeah.
So we had your version. We had, I think Alana Atwin had also submitted her recipe, which was a white chili, interesting enough.
Yeah.
And there was B. Taylor, who also submitted a chili, and there was myself. So I thought, you know what, I'm learning to be more creative ever since I've been doing this program with Chantal and being a little bit more hands-on in the kitchen. And I tested the waters by making chili for the first time, and I made it with Italian sausage. And it actually was the one that was selected from Derek as one of the winners. So it was fun to see that it was actually really liked because I was worried.
Amazing.
Right? My first time making it, and it was really tasty. I have to say, I don't know if it was the Italian sausage that just gave it a different flavor.
It gives it so much flavor. Yeah.
So I think that's what's great about us choosing this recipe is that you mentioned it. You can make this any way you like. You can add whatever you like. So I noticed you're actually putting corn, and I don't think the recipe I made had corn.
I just find it makes it so colorful when you add corn. And one thing to keep in mind with chili is how much meat versus beans.
Okay.
If you have a lot of beans and compared to the meat, that's healthier because the beans here are your most healthy ingredient. So if your chili is mostly meat with a few beans, you know, it's a bit less of a less healthy version. So you make what you want of it.
Okay. And let's talk spice. Because I'm curious. Like, there might be a lot of people out there that just love a spicy chili. Some like it less. How do you like yours?
So this recipe is not too spicy, but I use chili powder, oregano, and cumin. My favorite. And a bit of salt.
Okay, well that's good to know. So I'm, just letting parents out there that are watching this video and who love to do the cooking with their children. This is such a great recipe as well, because there's these cans to open. The kids could, separate them into little bowls. They love to see the different colors. You can walk them and talk them through it as they're doing it.
They can count beans.
That's right. So you're using this as a teachable moment as well, which is fun when we're cooking with our kids. And this is, I think what really started the program, right, was us wanting parents to take this opportunity to be able to be hands-on in the kitchen with your children and teach them, obviously, the kitchen safety. And then I think getting them to be involved in what they're prepping helps them maybe want to sample what they're cooking and maybe open up their palate to try different things, because they're the ones putting their time and their hands in what's being made. So it's a great way to get your kids involved.
So here I have the spices already mixed, the cumin, chili powder, oregano, and I'm adding this to the meat before adding everything else. So that way the meat really kind of gets the spices in there. So there they are.
I think when I make Italian sauce, tomato sauce, that's how I'll usually do it as well. I add my spices to the meat.
Yeah, then the flavor gets right in there.
It really does. It brings it out too while you're frying it up. You could smell it.
So Frankie, you had never made chili before that contest?
No.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, and I actually
Unbelievable.
I found a recipe online, and thank God for Google, whatever. And I kind of followed it just to give me an idea of what ingredients were needed, and I maybe changed a few things to alter it to what I had at home. And I think that's another great thing about us doing the program is often Chantal will always demonstrate something, but there's a million other ways that you can make it. And you bring this up often, right?
Yeah. So here's our meat browned with the onion, garlic, and the spices in there. And now we're going to add our ingredients. Okay. So what we have, like you said, Frankie, here I have black beans. If you don't have black beans, you could just skip them and add more kidney beans. You could use white beans. You could use chickpeas. Whatever you want. Corn. Some people like to add like red pepper, green pepper. And this recipe doesn't have it. So there's our corn. Now our tomatoes. I think this is kind of an important ingredient here, because it gives it all the juice. So our tomatoes, so like I said, these are half of everything, and then tomato paste. And here you have to kind of gauge your how thick you want it. So I'm mixing everything in, and then we're just gonna let this cook down a bit on the stove. So if you wanna take a look at it, look how colorful it is. Yeah, exactly. If your kids, some kids don't like chunky tomatoes. If you have that issue, what you can do is before putting them in, you kind of blend them. You could use that immersion blender, or you could throw them in the blender or mash them, or whatever. You could also not do it and let them get over it. So this needs just a little bit of water. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water in there.
That's what I was gonna ask you next. I guess the texture and the thickness of it is based on how the person likes it.
Exactly. So I'm adding a bit of water, and of course it needs to be cooked down. It needs to simmer, to cook, to get all the nice flavors. And again, this is where you can get creative with your spices. You could use like jalapeno in there. You could use a chipotle, like smoked jalapenos in there. Whatever flavor you like. You can make it hot, you can make it mild. So this is pretty much it. Okay, but now of course it needs to simmer. So I'm gonna show you, it's super easy. This is something you can whip up in no time. You could put it in your slow cooker, whatever. And it feeds a crowd. That's what's fun. It's a nice recipe. All right, so this I'm gonna put here, and now we're gonna cover it and bring it to a simmer. And I like to, if you're just home and you have plenty of time, it's nice to let it cook down at least an hour. This one is still a bit watery because it only cooked for about maybe half an hour or less, but this is more or less the final result.
It's very colorful.
So like we said, this you can eat it as is, or you can maybe use it on what was it, Indian tacos, or you could
make whatever you want with it.
You can turn it into a soup. You could.
Well, what's great about chili too, I think, is that it doesn't only have to be a meal. It could be a snack. It could be something that accompanies a side. It's great for game day, right? Who doesn't love a pot of chili?
There you go. So
I love that you showed this recipe and it was so simple and easy to make, and it didn't take that much time. And I think because you used a lot of the canned stuff, that also, I'm thinking for busy families, like this is a great quick fast recipe, because I'm sure you can just, even if you don't have canned corn, you can use frozen corn.
Of course, yeah.
So
I only bought this because that way I won't have any left. I just wanted to have that.
But it's like quick for families that are super busy and don't have time to be doing all the chopping necessarily and getting all the prep work done. This is just get your kids to open up the cans and boom, in a pot, and it's ready to go.
There you go.
I like the slow cooker idea as well. That's a great way to get something in the pot. You leave all day, you're busy working or getting the kids bumped around, and then you get in and your house smells delicious and your dinner's ready.
There we go. That's it. So we hope you enjoy it.
And we'll see you soon on What's for Lunch. Ona.
Ona.